come to talk to us today about organizational tools. She is the electronic resources librarian at Western Michigan University, and I'm just going to let her take it away. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, and hi everyone. I'm happy that you're able to join the eResource interest group meeting despite all of the many issues that we're dealing with on our respective campuses and at home regarding the COVID-19. Apparently it's a pandemic now, I don't know. Today I am going to demonstrate how the ERM group at WMU has been organizing our work for the past 2.5 years using an application called Asana. I want to apologize to anybody who thought I was going to present on Trello or Excel. I'm only going to mention those because I do use Excel and I have used Trello, but the majority of the work in the electronic resources unit is now in Asana. So a little bit of background information first. There are 4 of us managing the electronic resources lifecycle for a $7.5 million budget. Additionally, we configure and monitor the automation of our bibliographic record and EOD imports of print materials, and we monitor the automated part of the shelf-ready workflow. We are an ALMA and Primo library, and we act as the primary systems administrators for the ILS and sole administrators of the discovery layer. Also, we administer our off-campus authentication system, which is easyproxy. And although we're working daily to cross-train all the members of the group to do all the work of the unit, officially we have things divided up this way. One person configures all the acquisition stuff in ALMA, resolves acquisition-related problems, and updates our easyproxy config file. One person configures and monitors all the automated stuff in ALMA and is also an ALMA and Primo certified administrator. And one person manages our repository, oversees the work of 2 student employees, and is primarily responsible for making sure that we all do our work for usage statistics. And as for me, I basically just support everyone else in what they do, and I oversee the ALMA and Primo administration and do some other things. So just to give you a little bit more background information, by late 2017, we'd been working in our new library services platform for about 2 years. We had a new dean and a new associate dean, and we undertook a complete reorganization of the libraries and the departments within it. All of us were new to our positions at this time, either because the technical services work we did fundamentally changed as a result of our migration to the new library services platform, or because we were filling vacated positions within the unit. And it was a perfect time to rethink electronic resource management here. So some of the things that we felt we could do better at organizing are listed on this slide. The biggest struggle that we had was managing all the communication channels that we have at our fingertips. Between the 4 of us, we have 5 email addresses, 4 phone numbers, 2 ticketing systems, 2 instant messaging systems, and of course we had people stopping by our desk all the time to report problems or ask questions. And having all these communication channels makes us very available and very responsive, but it also poses a challenge because so many different communication channels makes it more likely that issues we should be addressing are going to fall through the cracks, or because others in the group might be able to contribute to the resolution of a problem, but they might not have access to that channel and be aware of what's going on. So that's the first thing. The tasks and projects that needed to be addressed at a future date is a second issue that we have. We often get notifications from vendors that come out weeks or even months in advance of our need to take any action on them. When I did most of the unit's work on my own, I'd put all these things on my calendar. And although my calendar was cluttered, it was manageable for me, but once other people joined the group and began taking on this work, we had to find a different solution to that problem. And also a lot of work that we do in ERM is collaborative. For example, one person might activate a collection in our ILS while another person configures that collection for off-campus access, and yet another person creates the purchase order and then receives the invoice and passes off the invoice to another person for payment in the systems. And previously that kind of workflow had been handled either face-to-face or through email, and both of them were inefficient and kind of difficult to track. We also often refer to the bus factor in our unit, which is the risk of the proverbial ball being dropped when not everyone has access to information. Lack of information is detrimental to good ERM, not only for when one of us is out sick or on vacation, or in the event that perish the thought one of us does actually get hit by a bus, but also because having information available to all members of the group is a natural way for us to acquire new information and skills about electronic resource management. As someone who spent many years being the only person that could deal with certain ERM issues, cross-training is a huge priority for me. And it's my hope that in the near future that we'll all be able to handle everything from updating our Easy Proxy config file to configuring a normalization rule in Primo. Even if this doesn't happen, it's good for us all to have a general idea of the workflows that other people inside our unit are doing. And finally, you only know ERM when you do ERM. It's difficult to articulate what electronic resource management entails without making people's eyes glaze over. People outside ERM often think that managing electronic resources is clicking a few buttons and voila, our users have access to millions of journal articles and ebook chapters. But we all know this isn't the case, that there's continual reconfiguration of the systems taking place in order to make electronic access to materials seem easy. And I wanted to be able to organize our work in a way that would capture all of the changes we make to our systems and also make that work transparent and quantifiable. So less than 6 months after we migrated to our new library services platform, but before I was in the position as electronic resources librarian and before we had new staff members in the unit, I knew that something in my own work had to change. Previous to what you see on the screen now, I'd been using a combination of my Outlook calendar, which looked like I was deliberately trying to avoid being invited to meetings, spreadsheets, paper lists, and sticky notes, which were absolute failures, and my email inbox, which was extremely frustrating. So what I started out with is what you see in this picture. I bought some chalkboard shelf paper and I used it to track some of the things that needed my attention at the time or at a later date. And when I started using this, I wasn't aware of the fact that this is an actual thing used in manufacturing. It's called a Kanban board. And this was an improvement, but it was still kind of frustrating because I was constantly erasing and rewriting things as they changed in priority or were completed. So I started looking for a web application to essentially do the same thing. And I looked at things like OneNote and Wunderlist and Google Docs, which I have a really hard time with Google Docs sometimes, and Evernote and some other free apps, but none of them gave me the visual display that I liked. And so eventually I tried Trello, which is a commonly available Kanban board with the free version. There's a commercial version too, but there's also a free version. And I used that for probably 3 or 4 months on my own. Then later, when I brought this up to the group here, and we started thinking about how the features of this kind of application could help us as a group, we talked about it, we looked at other options, and everyone really liked Asana. So Asana, or asana as people in the yoga world pronounce it, is a formal project management tool. And Kanban is an agile software development framework. But I'd like to be clear that none of us are certified project managers or software developers. Additionally, the project management body of knowledge defines a project as a temporary endeavor with an ending, while most of our work, such as configuring the discovery layer or managing continuing resources, is ongoing. But this agile management tool appears to fit well with the work that we're currently doing and helps alleviate some of the challenges we face around communication, transparency, and training. Additionally, it's been very useful as a documentation tool and has allowed us to start building some metrics that we'll be able to use to better articulate the work that we do and hopefully help people recognize the value of that work. Asana allows us to bring all the communications we receive individually into a single interface where we can all see, share, and collaborate on them. And I'm going to show you that in just a minute. We can assign and reassign tasks as needed and document an issue or configuration change and have the history of each task readily available as a reference. We can create tasks for things that are going to be happening in the future, such as platform migrations, manual URL updates, or electronic resource deaccessioning. And it's important for us to know what each other's working on so that we can mitigate larger issues rather than solving individual problems in isolation and missing the big picture or unnecessarily duplicating work. And Asana allows us to do this. So a simple Kanban board, like the one that was on the front of my file cabinet 2 slides back, has 3 columns, a to-do column, a doing column, and a done column. But most of ours aren't that simple. This is a screenshot of our Asana instance. On the left in the black area, you can see, well, a partial list of the project boards that we're currently using. There's one for each member of the ERM team for their personal work. There's one for each major ongoing project, and there are a few for one-time projects. Those one-time projects actually fit the definition of the project management body of knowledge, but that's not the majority of what we're doing here. The main part of the screen with the pebbles behind it shows my personal board where I keep track of things that I do on a regular basis. And everyone that's in my group has access to this board and can assign tasks to me, comment on tasks, or take tasks over by reassigning them to someone else if that needs to happen. We're all able to add notes and attach files to each task. And I have my board divided into one-time tasks and recurring tasks that I do periodically. And when I do a recurring task and I mark it complete, another task is automatically generated for the next time that I need to do that work. And I'll show you that a little bit later. There are menus at the top under my name on the left-hand side where I can change my board to make it look like a list or a timeline or a calendar. There's a menu I can use to provide an update to the project, which I'll use that for our one-time projects, but not for the ones that are ongoing. And I can also see a list of the files attached to all the tasks that are on this board. There's also a menu on the right where I can configure the fields I want to appear in each task, where I can filter and sort the tasks in various ways and add rules to the board. And I've never used the rules feature, but it's there, so I wanted to point it out. Everyone's personal board is constructed a little bit differently based on their personal preferences. But when we adopted Asana for group projects like usage statistics or configuring Primo, we designed the boards as a group and only change things as a group when something isn't working or one of us notices something that can be improved. although we've never had to do this, if one of our project boards needs a major overhaul, we could theoretically export the data, design a new board, delete the old board, and then re-import all the tasks into this new and improved project board. But we haven't had the need to do that as of yet. So this first project that we did as a group and this was really our test case for adopting Asana, was our biannual usage statistics project. I'm not sure how you guys do usage statistics at your institution, but we do it twice a year in January and July, and none of us really enjoy this task, especially because we experienced a regression in our workflow when we migrated from our previous ERM system. And so when we first migrated, there was a lot of frustration, and we knew we had to do something wrong, different. So one of the largest issues that we had was that there was no built-in workflow in our ILS. We didn't have any way to keep track of where we were in the process. And you can put all the administrative information you need in that back office, but there's no clickable links. So we would have had to like copy and paste the admin URL and the username and password combination out of the back end of our system and put it into the browser, which is like several extra clicks and would cumulatively add time over the completion of that work. And really, there was no way to export that data from the system. I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time, we couldn't export administrative data from the system. And so even if we didn't have this project board, we'd have to keep an extra spreadsheet and duplicate the work of updating administrative credentials in both the ILS and the spreadsheet. And then sharing the spreadsheet between 3 or 4 members of the team. And we've done that before, and it was really not a good experience. So usage statistics was a perfect test case for us to do this. And the current usage statistic project board that you see right here is actually like our 3rd or 4th iteration. And one of the things that we love about this tool is that we can change the things on the fly. Like we experimented with different column layouts, and we just did a lot of different things to this particular board before we landed on the way it is now. And the way it's constructed right now, we have two columns on the left-hand side, and the first column gets anything that is sent via email into this project board. And then the next column over, the items in the first column are moved to the second column when we're done doing the work. And then the third column is like a list of all of the platforms that we collect usage statistics on. And as everybody's doing the work, they'll grab a card and move it to the doing column. And then the last columns contain statistics and contain, documentation that they need about how to collect usage statistics and so on. So this project board is actually completed every 6 months, but we do reuse it by simply renaming and moving the columns around, and it's just super easy. This is an up-close look at one of the tasks or cards on the usage statistics board. The screenshot on the left shows you the top section of the task, where we have information about whether the platform is Counter 4 or Counter 5 compliant, whether it's sushi enabled, and we have it configured in our back office to harvest sushi data. And it also lists the variety of reports that are available on the platform. Farther down, if you were live in Asana and you scrolled farther down, you would see a clickable link to the usage statistics platform and the login credentials needed to access and download those reports. And then the screenshot on the right is not quite to the end of this card, but almost. And you see the trailing end of all of the subscriptions that are collected on this platform. And farther down, you see the completed and pending recurring tasks that we have set up to remind us to collect usage statistics next time it's due, or to check that sushi configuration is working properly. So for each project or board, you can create custom fields that you'd like to keep track of and analyze. The example on the left is from our trouble tickets board, and the example on the right is from a board titled Reports, where we log all the requests from liaisons and our department lead and other departments in our administration for data either pulled out of Alma or one of the platforms that we administer. So the custom fields that we've created are circled in red. And for both of these projects boards, it's helpful for us to know who sent in the request and how long it took for us to solve the problem or generate the report. But the other fields are unique to the respective project. For example, the location of the data that we provide to the requester is one of the custom fields in the reports board. Fields, they can be configured to be drop-down menu, text, or a numeric field. Now, prior to using this organizational tool, it was impossible for us to count the number of trouble tickets or report requests we handled during a period of time, let alone determine how much time we spent solving those problems or generating those reports. But with our custom fields, we can, for example, let our administrators know that we solved X number of trouble tickets during a given period of time, and it took us X number of hours to solve those problems. We can also calculate the average time it takes to solve issues, determine who sends us the most requests, and tons of other data in there that might be helpful in explaining to others how we spend our time. Here are a couple of screenshots showing how easy it is for us to generate tasks in Asana from the other applications that we use. The screenshot on the left is from Slack, our internal messaging application. And I've integrated Slack with our Asana instance so that every message that's sent to us via Slack can be turned into an Asana task. In the red circle on the left are the options for adding a task or appending an existing task with additional data. And when you click on Add a Task from Slack, you'll be able to populate fields for the project board the task will go to, the person to whom the task is assigned, the due date you want to give the task, the name of the task, and you can add additional information into the description field. On the right is an example of how we can send emails to Asana to create tasks. Each project board has its own email address. This, I think, is a usage statistics board. So the X plus and then all the numbers at mail.asana.com sends the this email message to Asana as a task. I've added an email address for one of my colleagues, also in the to field, and this task will be automatically assigned to her. I could add an email address in the CC field, and a collaborator would be added on this particular task. The subject of the email becomes the task name, and the body of the message becomes the task description. And any attachments that are attached to emails are also attached to the task as a file. So that's pretty cool. I have keyboard shortcuts set up for most of these projects so that I can just like hit control and some letter and it'll populate the email address that I need for a specific project. So I really like that. So we have a lot of recurring work in the group. We have pipes and import profiles to be monitored on a daily basis. We have bibliographic exports and imports that recur weekly or monthly. We have other tasks that need to happen periodically or only once a year, like a database renewal. The examples on this slide are from our Alma board. Twice a year, our Alma sandbox gets refreshed with all the production data and configurations. And so what we have to do is once the refresh happens, we have to reconfigure our Alma sandbox to point back to the Primo sandbox and the Easy Proxy development server, because everything sort of gets overwritten in that sandbox refresh, and we don't have any way of testing things if we don't fix that. So on the left, you can see the list of recurring tasks. 3 of them have been completed, and those are the ones that are circled. And then there's one that's incomplete. This task is said to recur 1 week after every sandbox refresh. So we had a sandbox refresh last February, and this task was due February 12th. And the person that completed this work marked the task complete, and a new one was generated for August 12th of this year, which hopefully is like right after our sandbox gets refreshed. So if you want to set a recurring task, it's super easy to do so. On the right hand side, you just there's a screenshot that shows the calendar pop out, and you can set these things to repeat daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, periodically. Choose your days. There's all kinds of ways to do that. Excuse me. The collaborative project boards that we use all contain a column on the far right where we store the documentation for our workflows and configuration changes we've made to our systems. But like each task or card is a means of documentation in itself as well. And so on this screen, you see the top portion and the bottom portion of a single task, where my colleague has explained what the issue is, provided the ticket number and the customer support interface for this particular system. And if you look at the circles on the right-hand side, you can see that she's changing the due date and providing notes as progress on this issue develops. The fact that we can add notes and explanations is super helpful for people like me, because like sometimes I can remember that I dealt with an issue, but I can't remember what platform I dealt with it on. Or, you know, some people are newer to our group and they can look and read these notes and glean a lot of information out of here that might help them solve immediate problems. So I think that is really awesome too. And now's the part that I'm really jazzed about, is the statistics. So there's a lot of ways you can get stats out of Asana, but we just use the simple CSV export. You can export the data to Google Sheets, or you can connect your Asana instance to Tableau, or you can use the JSON code that's available up on GitHub. But we just use the straight up CSV export right now. And this screenshot shows a cumulative snapshot of our trouble tickets board. We started using Asana for trouble tickets in the spring of 2018. And each row on this spreadsheet shows the number of tasks on the board and the number of completed tasks. We also have this data like in spreadsheet form for each fiscal period, so that we can use it like on the departmental end of year report, which was something we weren't able to do before we started using Asana. Also on this spreadsheet is the number of new tasks created each month and the number of tasks completed each month. And that isn't something that comes out of Asana, but it's super easy to add that formula on your own. And so that's what I did. If you look at this chart closely, you can see there's a couple of months where the numbers are off. I think it's September 2018 and March of 2019 or something like that. And if you look at the chart, you can see that the number of tasks completed and the number of tasks added kind of were fairly equal until about July of 2019. And we were able to export and analyze all these incomplete tasks to determine if there was something that needed our attention, or if there was just a jump in the number of issues and not enough staff time to solve them. And the difference in the numbers on that monthly area of the board, when I pulled those out, like in September of 2018 and March of 2019, I went back and looked at what we had pulled out the previous month, and it appeared to me that somebody had inadvertently deleted some tasks, and that's what happened. But that's no big deal because ERM is messy anyway. And finally, this data is only as good as the group's ability to remember to add and close the tickets, which sometimes we do forget to do. There's not much that we can do about forgetting about the work that we could be putting in Asana, but periodically I'm able to pull a report of incomplete tasks and divide them up by the assignee to have them double check and complete them if the last step was forgotten, or if some of us can pitch in and help get them resolved and completed. So when I pulled this report for this presentation, I could see that there were 81 open trouble tickets, and they all have a due date set in the future. So the graph currently doesn't represent any past due tasks or completed tasks that have not been marked as complete. So we're doing a fabulous job, I think. And we wouldn't have been able to do this 2-3 years ago. So this is great. Here's a couple of more examples of the kinds of data that we can pull from Asana. The chart on the left shows the platform for each open trouble ticket currently in our system. And the chart on the right shows the number of open tasks across all the boards for each Asana user in our group. It seems like a lot of tasks, but it's not really a lot because we have these recurring ones that are maybe a year out, and everybody's assigned use of statistics to do. So it's not like we're totally behind in our work, but it does seem like a lot when you look at it. And these kinds of reports are easily created with CSV exports, and then adding some formulas or calculations. So I'm going to show you an example of something that I did. So this is a query from Asana for all the completed tasks on our trouble tickets board. And the spreadshot in the screenshot shows you some of the data in the report. You don't see it all. But column B, the one that is labeled created at, has the date that the task was created, and column C, labeled completed at, has the task that the date that the task was completed. And I added that blue column, the third one highlighted in blue, and I inserted a formula just to calculate the number of days between when the task was created and when it was completed, and then added just a couple other calculations to the spreadsheet, and I got the number of tickets that were reported and resolved within a certain period of time. And so this is what I got. This is the number of tickets that were created and resolved within a certain period of time. So naturally, we're all interested in the 97 tickets that took more than 90 days to resolve. And amazingly, the report that I pulled from Asana shows that all of these tickets were either issues with our Primo Central Index, or as they call it now, the CDI, or issues with Ferber and Dedupe. And those are tickets that we have to send to Ex Libris, and they do take a long time. Additionally, a lot of these other tickets, like the 61 to 90 days and the 31 to 60 days, those are all tickets that we had to contact someone outside of the library or the university for. So I can see that when looking closely at this data, that the issues that we can resolve on our own are done so in a matter of hours or days, and it just makes me very excited that I'm able to share that stuff. And there's a tremendous amount of research that I can do with the statistics that I'm able to get now. And I'll explore this in the future, but it's pretty exciting to me. And here's the benefits and the limitations. And in my opinion, I feel like the benefits far outweigh the limitations. It's very easy for us to create tasks from our departmental or personal email accounts, from SpringShare, RT, Slack. And with most of our work now within a single interface, everyone has access to all the important ERM-related information from the many disparate communication channels we use. With the documentation and visibility of the work in Asana, we're sharing information with each other about all the work of our group and learning from each other. And now we have some concrete numbers that we can use to let everyone outside the unit know what our work entails, making it easier for them to see the big picture of electronic resources management and also those little pictures inside. Now, the biggest limitation that I see to this particular organizational tool is the file size limit of CSV exports. The limit for importing data is set at 100 megabytes, and I've yet to run into an issue with importing data. I mean, I guess it could be problematic if you're like bringing videos in or much larger files or something like that. But to me, the CSV export is the bigger issue, because what happens there is those exports truncate at 500 lines. And, you know, we've been using this software application for almost, well, 3 years almost, since spring 2018. And we are no longer able to pull out an entire project data because it's way more than 500 lines. But, you know, if you're techie, you can use the third-party integrations. You can, you know, hook it up with JSON or use the Asana API. This is something that we haven't yet had time to explore, but maybe we'll get to that soon. The other inevitable limitation are all the related to the user behavior, you know. There's been a couple of times where 1 or 2 members of the team inadvertently deleted tasks, so our numbers on a couple of the boards aren't 100% accurate. No big deal. Additionally, it's sometimes hard to remember to put everything that we do in Asana. For example, I was in the middle of a meeting the other day when a librarian asked for urgent help to solve an access issue. And after I resolved the problem, I mentally went back into what was happening in the meeting, and I forgot to add the task in Asana. I only remembered it a couple of days later when I saw her in person and she thanked me for the help. So I'm sure there are many things that we could add to Asana, but we get caught up in the moment, and by the time the issue is resolved, we forget about it. But that's okay by me, because the numbers that we have are better than having nothing at all, which is what we had before. So in closing, I just want to reiterate that we're not certified project managers, but adoption of this Agile project management tool has given us the ability to organize our work in an easier and more useful way. Having all of our work documented in a single system is a time saver, and the transparency with which everyone does their work has expanded communication between each member of the group. Our work, although always collaborative, is now more collegial as well. We've all learned a lot from each other. We have a better understanding of what each person contributes to the management of electronic resources, and we're all becoming more and more proficient in systems administration and electronic resources troubleshooting. Concrete data is a huge morale booster in my humble opinion, and I'm thrilled that we can see our work represented in numbers and show the group what a great job they're doing. I also love that I'm able to brag to the rest of the library about the sheer volume of work that happens in electronic resources. Before adopting this organizational tool, reporting numbers was always specific to our collection and not specific to our people. And I'm super happy to report out numbers that have less to do with the number of resources we have and more to do with the work that the people in my unit are doing each day. In times like this, COVID-19 pandemic, electronic resources is the library at many institutions. And I'm happy that I'm going to be able to let everyone know what we did to keep things running so that our instructors can teach their courses and our students can complete them. There's a lot more research we can do, and to use this organizational tool in new and better ways. And I'm looking forward to doing that research in the future. But right now, I'm really interested in hearing your questions and comments about what we're doing here. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Jerry. That was very informative.
Cool.
Feel free to jump in with questions. Patrick had to go because they are shutting down their library at 3 o'clock, and he was put in charge of that. So,
Oh, great.
yeah, but he'll be back next time, I'm sure. So, okay, there's a few questions coming up in the chat. Can you see those, Jerry?
Do I need to stop the share to see that, or no? I
You
guess.
shouldn't. You should be able to just click on the chat tab at the bottom. Can you see that?
No.
If you hover over the bottom of your screen.
There are some little circles on the bottom left-hand side.
Well,
and that's what I'm seeing.
Oh,
Actually, you might want to stop sharing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
There
now
we
I can
go.
see the chat. Cool.
okay, good.
Oh, hi, Amy. Yeah, we have a lot of public facing links to report issues. We have a report an error button in Primo, and we have SpringShare application. Yeah, we do. I think we have a couple of others. I'm just like drawing a blank, and all of those come into our departmental email address. So, you know, earlier I said that there are four people in the group, and they each have an email address. But then we also have this departmental email address, and everything that gets sent to report an error, even for print resources or up in the public facing area, goes to the departmental email address, and then that's how we're able to like get everything into one place. If we didn't have access to that, I'm not sure exactly how we would do it, but yeah, it comes into our departmental email address, and so then we can just shoot an email to Asana to put that in there.
This is Leanne again. I have a couple questions. I was just wondering, how long did it take you to set this up and figure out? I know you said you've been through several iterations of how it works, but the initial setup, what did that involve? And then if you can just kind of touch on pricing, maybe as far as, is it FTE or is it based on users, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the pricing is based on users, and I think we have like the cheapo subscription. I think it might be $10 a month per user. It's like, it ends up being like $500 a year. And the four of us in electronic resources have an account, but we also have one of the guys in our IT services department has an account because he does a little bit of work in Alma, and we kind of want to keep connected with him. And then we have two people in our cataloging and metadata department that have accounts because we like send those report and error issues that have to do with print resources over there. So I think it's about it's probably less than $600, I think, for all of us to have an account. And having, there's a free version, so you don't even have to purchase it. But if you want some of the bells and whistles, like the ability to configure your fields, which I think is a huge thing, then hopefully you can advocate for getting a subscription. And as far as like setting things up, it's no time at all. I mean, like the most time that we spent for like the usage statistics project was really just talking about what we wanted to do. And once you have it set up, you kind of can try it out, and if you don't like it, you can change it super easy, because you can drag all of the cards and all of the columns, and you can rename them all. It's just really very simple. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I have one more.
Okay.
Did you have, well, I'm sure you had several workflows already in place, but so did you take a workflow and then enter it into the system? And did you do all that, or did people say, oh, this is what I do, I want to put that in there? And I mean, how did you organize all that?
Oh no, yeah, the people that actually do the work develop the workflows. So, yeah, I mean, because I don't really, it doesn't really matter to me how something gets done as long as it gets done. And so if you have a different way of doing it than I might have, that's fine. But just let's document what's happening. And so, yeah, so everybody kind of created their own workflow document based on what it is that they're doing. And we have, several of them for all different kinds of work. So, does that help?
Yes, great. Are there other questions? I don't know if anybody's interested.
I have questions actually.
Good.
Kerry, when you show the report, the statistic report, they have tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Are those that hit 861 on February, 817 in January? Are those literally just a troubleshooting tickets?
Yeah, I mean, trouble tickets is a little bit of a catch-all. We put things in there for people that are having access issues, or if there's a problem with a citation, or, I mean, there's a lot of different stuff that goes in there, but
Okay.
it's mostly issues that we need to resolve somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
This is very helpful. I'm really glad I get to catch this. Our library is closing at 3 o'clock, so.
Yeah, I think everybody's library might be closing at 3 o'clock. Ours is closing too. So thanks for hanging in there.
Oh, thank you for keeping your presentation.
Sure. Sure. Well, are there any other questions from anyone?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay.
Okay, thanks again to Jerry. I really appreciate you doing this. It was very helpful. I would also just like to do a quick plug for the eResources IG. I think I sent out a message earlier that Patrick and I are looking for somebody to take it over for next year. If you're interested, please let us know. We've been doing this since the inception, and we'd like to pass the torch, as it were. We're running out of ideas.
Oh.
So if you, just contact either one of us if you're interested. And thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.